popular in later life, but which seems to have been somewhat in abeyance during the journal's years. This lack may bother some of my readers, especially those in Texas, where I have been referred to as the Sage of Glen Rose, a sturdy rustic concerned solely with country things. But I never set out to be a rustic sage, only a writer about things that mattered to me. Some of the names of people have been changed to avoid offense or injury to those few who may still be living, or to touchy kin of the many who have died. Here and there, the journal or the comments and summaries contain sometimes verbatim material I have used in other published work. Such passages had often been lifted from the journal for that other work, or have been borrowed now from the other work for use here. Some have even been altered a little or added to as memory has furnished more details. I have let all these passages stand, with or without notes regarding their appearance elsewhere. The journal entries and the comments or summaries often reflect the personalities and views of two different individuals, and have two separate voices. In a few ways, young John, the journal keeper, is something of a stranger to old John, the gray-headed commentator and summarizer and square bracketer. He was rather ill-read despite 6 years of college, naive in several ways, sexually a bit randy, quite profane at times, and filled with inchoate, often frustrated ambition. And he was still carrying a pretty fair load of ingrained Texan Southern provincialism. Callow may be as good an overall adjective as any to describe him. But the journal entries convey, as noted above, what he was like back then, or what he thought he was like. And old John is always there with his eye on his younger self's statements, poised to pounce and criticize when he disagrees strongly. Many other people's memoirs seem to lead to moral justification of the author's way of life, but I don't seem to have that feeling about my own life, or at any rate about the memoir's particular segment of it. In a short 1960s piece about my attitude toward the Vietnam War, written on request from Gordon Lish at Esquire, other writers contributed as well, but the whole politically touchy project was ultimately killed before publication by someone higher up on the magazine's staff. I described myself as one who has too often glimpsed, skulking from tree trunk to tree trunk behind him, the shadow of his own and his people's imperfection. I still see that shadow on occasion, and young John saw it much more frequently. He was, I think, a fairly decent fellow despite his shortcomings. But the chief moral constant I can discern clearly in him is his compulsion to write as well as he could, and if possible to write better and better with time. He did stick to that aim, or it stuck to him, and it held him together during a period when demoralization was never very distant. I considered calling the memoir The Circle, for it leads its protagonist from Texas through some other parts of the world, and finally back to Texas again. But the present title, taken at Sam Hines's suggestion from a sentence of Gertrude Stein's quoted in one of the journal entries, seems to sum it up better. In a time like ours, I have no notion whether enough people to matter will be interested in a book concerned with the long-past apprenticeship ups and downs of a not especially productive writer like myself, whose main work has been backward-looking, rural, and regional. But it seems I needed to put those ups and downs into words. John Graves, Glen Rose, Texas, 2003. Myself and Strangers. Chapter 1. Origins, 1920 to 1945. I was born and grew up rather unexceptionally in the prairie city of Fort Worth, Texas, my late childhood and youth coinciding with the years of the Great Depression. My family were nice people, in the Southern phrase, Episcopalian and conservative, with quite a few of the implicit privileges pertaining